Our next CM, the second Gemini Cup, and this time it's a mile distance race course and will be held starting from the end of the month, the 31st of May. Yeah, if you remember, the first Gemini Cup was a long distance nightmare on Kyoto 3200 meter. This one is completely different. We're doing Tokyo 1600 meter turf, the Yasuda Kinen course. The condition for this racetrack is left-handed, spring, sunny, and firm. The hidden stat bonus for this racetrack is stamina and guts. So this will be one of those CM where you might want to consider running a guts maxing deck to help hit the hidden stat threshold. Alright, let's talk about the course itself. This track, Tokyo 1600 meter turf, should be pretty familiar course for you if you have played the first CM3, the Cancer Cup. The course starts with a straight into a middle leg where everything is basically a corner moving into the last spurt section, where the last spurt section is all just a long straight. So basically for the middle leg, you will want to stack as much corner speed skill as possible. Also, do note that this section where you start spurting on the last spurt is paired with an uphill section. So this means that the acceleration will be taking longer than usual and you would want to have a good acceleration skill to be paired with. The last spurt section actually starts with a corner first, and so corner acceleration skills are one of the best acceleration skills for this race course. The usual angling and scheming for front runners is still mandatory as it activates immediately at the start of the final leg, so it's still the king for the front runners. For late surger and end closer, let's pump some iron works here as usual. Now, since the introduction of Nishino Flower, the savior of Pace Chaser, the Pace Chaser style actually have a unique inherit for once. The unique Budding Blossom activates as soon as the last spurt hits, so if you're a Pace Chaser, you can also inherit this unique. Shooting for Victory actually also works on the CM, but only if you run the main Taiki shuttle. Do not try to inherit this unique because if you inherit, it will not work on the other Pace Chaser, as the duration will not last into the final spurt. Now, the interesting part is the straight acceleration section, because the final straight on Tokyo 1600 meter starts about 33 meter into the final leg. So, first of all, if we hear the word straight acceleration, we already know that straightaway spurt and encroaching shadow is the king for this, which means end closer is pretty strong for this CM. Frontrunner also have access to the usual El Condor Pasa unique and Mummy Creek's unique. This is to be paired with angling and scheming for the maximum effect. We also have a new strong inherit for late and end closer. Well, it's mostly for end closer, and that is the new Cheerleader King Halo. This unique basically just wants you to stay at the back of the pack, and when you enter the final straight, you get acceleration. For the gambling acceleration skills, No Stopping Me works as per usual, but not as strong compared to the longer tracks. Head on for Pace Chaser also still works, and On Your Left for Late Surger also works as per usual. One interesting thing to note is the existence of Corner Connoisseur is a gambling corner acceleration skill that is pretty decent for the CM. The reason being is that the only corner for this race course is the middle leg section, and you actually have a chance so that it procs on the final corner. And so the acceleration will carry on into the late race section. The main reason is also that this skill comes from the Yukino Bijin Guts card, so you have easy access to it when running a Guts deck. For these stats, 1200 speed as always, I'm pretty sure almost every player know this by this point. For stamina, the good news is that since this is a mile distance racetrack, it's not pretty brutal as the previous CM. 600 stamina is your target, and that should get you through the full race comfortably. Honestly, you can run the race with 500 something stamina, but you're sacrificing the hidden stat speed bonus if you are not aiming for 600 stamina. So 600 stamina is the recommended threshold. The hidden stat bonus for this course is stamina and guts. So there's actually a real reason to push your guts higher than usual on this CM, which also ties to directly why the guts deck are genuinely strong for this CM. I think if you're running a guts deck, a stat line of something like 1200 on speed, 600 stamina, 900 power, 900 guts, and 600 wit is quite achievable. And this stat line, I'm pretty much sure, will be able to carry your Uma to the A finals. Obviously, if you can get higher power, guts, and wit, then go for it. There's also the dueling mechanic, which is pretty strong with the guts deck since the last section is all straight, so all the more pushing for the guts deck build itself. By the way, Speed Eater is really good for frontrunners on the CM. As we all know, it's basically a broken speed skill that also debuffs the speed of the other runners. There's also the existence of Keen Eye if you are building a speed debuffer for your solo Oshi comps. You can get this skill specifically from the Gold City Speed card. Alright, with that, let's move on to the next section, which is the decks. The recommended deck format for the CM is Guts Maxing, the usual 1 speed, 3 guts, and 2 wit. The reasoning is exactly what I just explained. Guts is pretty much contributing to your hidden stat bonus. It contributes also to the dueling mechanic, and just the overall deck gives you access to some acceptable gold skill for the CM, which is pretty nice. Your Guts trio in the deck is the usual suspect, Yukino Bijin for the Corner Connoisseur, Haru Urara, and Admire Vega as our card if you have it. If you run late or end closer, Bamboo Memory is also a borrow option because it's a good card and has a good gold skill for the CM. For speed card, you can swap in the usual Kitasan Black or Fukugitaru or the Naruto Top Road if you have any of these cards at MLB. As for the wit slots, the usual Nice Nature, Fine Motion, Marvel Sunday SR card, etc. works pretty well. That said, if you don't want to run the Guts deck build or you're simply more comfortable with a speed wit deck build, it's still totally usable. The format is the usual 2 speed, 1 power, and 3 wit cards. You'll still perform fine, but I think Guts deck for this CM is just superior due to the hidden stat bonus as well. If you're running this format, then the deck can look something like this. Of course, you can substitute what cards you don't have with the cards you have in your inventory. Okay, going into the meta talk section, this CM will be frontrunner and encloser heavy. Pace Chaser and Lead Surger can still compete, although they are not completely dead like the previous CMs, but they are simply just a little bit weaker. Starting with frontrunners, Maltrack means frontrunner are naturally strong, and this CM is no exception. The three kings here are Valentine Bourbon, Swimsuit Maruzensky, and Smart Falcon. Swimsuit Maru has Speed Eater innately, which is absurd for a mall distance racetrack, and also her kit is just oriented for mall CM, so she's pretty good. Valentine Bourbon, as always, is just really easy to build with everything packed into her kit. You just need to pair Angling and Scheming and El Condor Pasa Inherit or Mummy Creeks Inherit for a straight acceleration backup, and these two can just help you win the race. Smart Falcon is also a very strong pick, as we can see after her unique buff, she can fight for the front position better at the start of the race. We have also already seen her performing on previous CM after her unique buff, so she's a pretty good pick. The frontrunner meta on the CM also means that the pace chaser are having a really tough time because most of their good acceleration skill have position conditions that just won't trigger when there are too many frontrunners taking up the front position. Mummy Creek's unique, Nishino Flower unique, Taiki Shuttle unique, their acceleration just don't fit cleanly into the front heavy lobby. All of the pace chaser acceleration skill wants you to be either at the third and fourth position, where if the lobby is very front heavy, this position will be pushed into the very back, and as a result, you just lose your acceleration source as a pace chaser. Now, for the end closer, Narita Taishin is basically the star of the show here. Taishin simply have Encroaching Shadow, as we all know, the best acceleration skill for straights, and paired with a couple of good inherits like the Cheerleader King Hollow Inherit, and you can also put in some gold acceleration skills like the Corner Connoisseur from the Yukino Vision Guts card, and Taishin will give you the victory. The JP and Korean server both had her as a top and closer pick, and I think it will translate directly for the global server as well. Ogre Cap is also worth mentioning as a strong and closer option on this course. She has Corner Connoisseur and Nimble Navigator on her kit, and a very good unique Triumphant Pulse as per usual. There were cases in JP where people converted her to the end closer for the CM, and she performed really well due to this. She's probably just a step below Narita Taishin, but a legit option if you can build her as an encloser. Cheerleader King Hello is the other strong pick, and she sits somewhere between the late surger and the encloser territory, depending on how you build her. Her unique activates on the final straight and is a reliably strong execution skill. I think she's more suited to be an encloser because you technically want to stay at the back of the pack with her unique, but if you build her as a late surger, she can also perform just fine. Late surgery in general is always in a very weird spot because you don't have the straight extraction skill like End Closer, yet you have the access to similar pool of extraction skills as the End Closers, and as a result, people will be more inclined to run End Closer rather than the late surgers. Lastly, for Amal CM, we also have the buffers. Speed Eater is the main one for fronts as I mentioned before. You can also get the Keen Eye Gold Skill Speed debuff from the Gold CD Speed card as another source of speed debuffer for the CM. Here is the tier list from the JP server. Take this with a grain of salt. I agree with it mostly, but there might be changes that occur in the global server. Looking at each tile, starting from the frontrunners, Valentine Bourbon is probably your easiest bet if you want to have an easy time building her, and she's just simply that strong. Swimsuit Morisensky right alongside her is pretty strong if you can build her properly. Smart Falcon, as I have mentioned before, is also a real competitor this time, as we've seen from the previous small CMs. Seon Sky is also kinda there because of her unique angling and scheming, but she's just harder to build compared to like Valentine Bourbon, let's say, or Swimsuit Marasensky. As for Pace Chaser, I honestly will recommend on skipping them for the CM. There's not really much viable Pace Chaser option that competes cleanly with the frontrunner or end closers. You can probably try to run Taiki Shadow or Nishino Flower as they are quite strong if their unique acceleration pops at the right timing. Late Surger also have a similar story, not a great CM for Late Surger once again. You can run something like Late Surger Ogre or Late Surger King Hollow, but I think the Encloser version is just simply better, so there's really no point going for the Late Surger build itself. Unless you just want an easier time building the Umas, because the Encloser version will definitely take more time to build. For the Encloser, as I have explained before, Narita Taishin is simply your S tier Uma. Ogre Cap is also right there just behind Narita Taishin. Cheer King Hollow is pretty strong as well. And as always, there's the option of Gold Chip if you are a free-to-play player and you want to run an Encloser. Let's dive into the team composition for DCM. Team composition really doesn't differ that much from previous CMs. The strongest one is 2 fronter plus Narita Taishin. You just slam in Valentine Bourbon and Swimsuit Maru or Smart Falcon up front, and Taishin from the back can secure your win if the frontrunner flops. This is the recommended setup from the JP server and Korean server as well. It's pretty much foolproof at this point, and you can easily see why it is very strong. The second option is the solo Oshi gaming setup. You just put one really strong ace, your Oshi. And as for the 2 debuffers, you can do 2 variants. There is one with the 2 chariots that has speed either to debuff the enemy Umas, or simply just run a late or end closer with the Keen Eye Gold skill from the Gold City card. Just slap them in and run it on your Umas. There's also the variant of a runaway as chariot, like using Silent Suzuka or the new Metro Palmer, and putting all your chips on the enclosers like Narita Taishin plus another ace. The last option is just the usual slamming 3 aces and hope you win. You know the drill. It doesn't have to be the meta picks either. If your Oshi is ready for a Mal race, you can just send it. Alright, that's all you need to know for the second Gemini Cup. Good luck out there. This is a pretty interesting Mall CM compared to some of the slop we've had recently, where I think all styles have a decent chance of winning. So yeah, it should be a pretty fun CM. As always, thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next one.